was a monk, a yogi monk for 7 years. I got very caught up in that until I started to notice the harm it did, the harm it was doing. This is a talk for everybody who's been involved or wanting to get involved in the world of meditation and self-inquiry. Today I'm going to talk about the approach of the Westerner and the approach of the more Eastern style of thinking to the world of meditation and self-inquiry. And I'm generalizing, but I want to give you a general feel. And so the typical nature of the Westerner, for example, is that they're always trying to get something out of everything. Whatever we do, we need to do it for a purpose. Whatever we do, we need to reach a certain goal to make what we're doing worthwhile. If we're not getting anything out of it, if we're not attaining a certain goal, if we're not reaching a certain outcome, then we really don't see the importance or the significance in what it is we're doing. And this is a very strong goal-orientated, achievement-orientated mentality. It's very difficult for the Westerner to drop when they get involved in the world of meditation. So therefore they tend to be more attracted to the highly intellectual approaches such as Buddhism that come across to the Westerner as very, very definite and very, very clear and very, very precise in everything that's being said. And it's this this definiteness and this precise nature of thinking that the Westerner is very attached to and very attracted to. And they're attracted to it because it gives them a certain sense of this makes sense. It's a little bit like the scientific mentality. I want proof, I want fact, even though science has very little proof and very little fact involved in it. Yet the claim to fact and the claim to the proof is what we want. And the intellectual wants that, the academic wants that. So there's a tremendous amount of emphasis on the intellectual academic knowing, rather than the knowing of the body, the knowing of the lived experience of the meditator. And that is a completely different level of knowing. And this is a completely different level of knowing in the sense it is not an accumulation of lots and lots and lots of information that we can cleverly re-express and make ourselves look quite impressive and so on. It actually is more to do with something that we can't show off to the world. We can show off what we know. I can sit here and talk all day and show off how clever I am. But how do I show you my actual lived experience? How do I actually show you what I am? It's very difficult. In fact, it's very easy to show you an image of what I am and for you to get sucked into that and convinced by that, because in the Western world, we tend to live in the way where we're looking very, very superficially at a person and not very often into the person. So we're not using our senses, we're not using our feeling in the way of understanding and getting a sense of someone. We're more interested in listening to all the clever things they can say, and if they're really, really clever, then our regard for them may escalate. If they're not so smart, don't speak so cleverly, our regard for them may drop a little, even if they actually have a lot more value as a human being than another person, just because they can't speak cleverly, just because they can't speak so well. We're not so drawn to them. So this is a real major problem in the West, because it makes the Westerner the most gullible, I mean it, the most gullible and the most easily influenced person on the planet, because they're so reliant on the superficiality of what another person has to say and how well they can put it. And that isn't necessarily an expression of or an indication of the person and the quality of the person that's speaking. So this is a very problematic approach to your self-investigation and to your meditation, because when you approach meditation in this way, you again approach meditation with an interest in what can meditation achieve for me? What is going to be the result of me meditating today? How will I achieve something from this meditation? What will it give me? How will it change me? Will I become enlightened, as though enlightenment itself is a goal? And this is just a very westernized understanding of enlightenment. Enlightenment is not a goal. to achieve. Enlightenment is just a puzzle to unravel. And when we unravel that puzzle, we realize that there is no such thing as enlightenment. It's actually getting over that way of thinking that I must achieve something that is actually enabling us to come back to the way we already and always have been, and to fall into the appreciation of that for what that is. And that is the meditation of the body. That is the reality of meditation at its absolute core. And that is, can I meditate for no purpose whatsoever? It is the one action in our life that you do for not achieving anything. You are not to achieve anything. If you achieve something in meditation, you're not meditating actually. You're just conjuring mostly. Mostly if you achieve something in meditation, you brought about that achievement because you wanted it. That's why you saw it as an achievement when it came about, because that's what you were looking for. As you were looking for that, that's your thought process. That's your intention to achieve that. And so after a while, you do. But this is not real. This is just thought-induced states. And the Westerner gets very, very caught up in that. And that's why they tend to be so, if you like, when they talk about their meditation, they talk about their knowledge. You know, you see it a lot with the big religions like Buddhism and so on. They come across very superior, very arrogant. They seem to think that the discussion between one another should be one of dominating the other person. You know, Westerners love to debate. They want to outdo one another. This is not intelligence. This is just domination. This is just being stuck in your own view and wanting to overpower the other person's view. This is an insecurity of the Westerner because he doesn't understand there's a whole other side to life. And that other side to life is the lived experience of the human being. And the thing about the lived experience of the human being is completely the opposite to the intellectually superior and inferior situation that we have in the Western world. And that intellectually superior inferior argument, that debate that goes on, is so far away from what meditation is. It's got nothing to do with it. So what is it when we meditate? What do we discover when we meditate? We discover, well, that we're all the same. We're exactly the same. The experience of the human being, no matter what he thinks of it, it's exactly the same. When I'm sad, I feel the same as you, or pretty much the same as you. We're going to have the same difficulties and the same obstacles in life as one another. We're just going to react to them differently. We're going to respond to them differently depending on our belief systems, our cultures, and so on. And so this will cause us to experience them a little differently, but essentially we all have relationship problems, or essentially we all have the physical problems, the health problems, whatever it is we deal with in life. It's pretty much the same when you bring it back to the fact of you and me as a living organism. But when we go back into the ideals and the ideas of me as a Buddhist or a yogi monk or as an enlightened person, then we go into all sorts of amazing delusions. Massive delusions, and mostly self-delusions, self-grandeur, and it's complete nonsense, absolute bullshit. It's got nothing to do with life. It's got nothing to do with religion. It's all about the intellectualization of life. It's all about the idea that there is something better to be, more to become. And there's not. That's not what you discover when you meditate deeply. When you go into your depth of meditation, what do you discover? You discover at the absolute core and the root of meditation, which is actually when all thinking drops away and there's no ideas of yourself, there's no ideas of the world, there's only the lived experience of what remains. And what is it that remains? When you stop all thinking, when you stop all fantasizing, when you stop all awareness and all consciousness nonsense, what is it that remains? Without you putting a thought or a word to it, what remains is the thing you can't get away from, and that is the living, feeling, sensory experience of being the body that you are. You're right back to being the animal, right back to being the living organism of the creature that you are, knowing nothing more than the moment that you exist in, not being able to know anything more than the moment you exist in, knowing there's no way to know anything more. You can only think about that. And if you think about that, that's just fantasizing. That's just assumption. And you can create all sorts of experiences that way and think that's absolutely wonderful, but it's all bullshit. It's just all thought-induced nonsense. The only thing you have when all that drops away equalizes you completely between you and every other human being, no matter what they believe, no matter what they think, no matter what you think about yourself. You change the experience of yourself by the way you think about yourself, but yourself, the fact of you, is not changed. It's just the way it actually is. If you like it or don't like it, this causes you to feel good or bad about it, but actually the state, the way you actually are, is not good or bad or right or wrong. It's not something you need to like or dislike. It's just a fact of how it is to be a human being, and it's pretty much the same for all of us. And that's what we discover, is that this myth of enlightenment is made into a myth when it becomes a goal, brought back to a reality when we see it. It's just a little puzzle that some smarty made up just to help us see the impossibility of actually improving ourselves. Anything we try to do to reach those goals is actually a delusion. There's no goal to reach. It's getting over the objection to the way we are, however we are at any moment in the day. And when we get over that objection, that bias about ourselves, if we for the first time experience ourselves as we actually are in the lived moment of our life. And experiencing that as a lived experience, there's no problem with that. So that never changes. It's just your perceptions of that drops away. Otherwise, that is fine. It always has been fine, always will be fine, exactly as it is. Trouble is, whilst you got all these ideas about what you should be, you can't get to what you are. You can't get to what you are. Whilst you're trying to become enlightened, you can never recognize and appreciate the fullness and the completeness of yourself as you already are. And that's the puzzle. And anything you do to improve that only hurts you, only harms you. That's part of the puzzle. You discover in the end there's nothing you can do. So you stop doing anything, and what are you left with? What you are. And there it is. And so the Westerner is very caught up in this ideology and these ideas and intellectualizations, whereas the Eastern side of the world is a little more to do with what's the experience? What's the experience that I'm having? And there's a flaw in this as well, don't worry. There's a danger in this as well, because what they tend to get caught up in there is actually devising all sorts of meditative and mental techniques to bring about all sorts of far out experiences. You'll see people like, the most popular guy now, Sadhguru, some big guy in India, talks endlessly about all these conjures, experiences and imaginings. These people get so caught up in the experience that is the fabrication of their own culture, the fabrication of their own belief systems, and you hear them just repeating what everybody before them said because they got nothing new, because they got caught in the same trap. And this is the danger. This is the danger of the Eastern approach, where I'm so caught up in the experience, I don't realize that the experience is not important at all. The experience is where we get trapped. The experience is the conjuring, and sustained by the continual conjuring and recognition of our thinking, recognizing the experience it's just created and continuing to rehash that over and over again. It's a fantastic delusional state that we get so caught up in when we're pursuing the experiences of the spiritual or the mystic states of enlightenment. The mysticism, the only person who's mystified is the mystic. So this is another trap. Another trap is to get caught in those delusions. You've got to get past those delusions. These are just other aspects. They're not the intellectual so much, I've got to know everything and have the answers to everything. These are more, I've got to experience everything. I've got to have had every experience that is available to the enlightened being. One, there's no such state as an enlightened being. That is one thought-based experience. And two, all the other experiences that come when you start thinking about them from these states, these are not real either. These are just, again, thought-induced illusions. But they create a state of feeling in the body as though they are real, but they're not real at all. If you can't experience it without thought, it's not there. It's not there to be experienced. It's not real. It's not lived. It's conjured. And there's a huge difference between what is the lived experience and what is the conjured experience. Now, the lived experience is there whether you want it there or not. It's there. Whereas the conjured experience will only be what you want it to be. It'll always be just wonderful. It'll always be the lovely thing, the good thing, the high thing, the thing that better than anybody else can have. And you give yourself this grandiose, massive ego trip that because you can have these spiritual experiences, which are, spiritual just means mental experiences, that you're somehow an evolved being. You're not. You just got caught in a trap along the way. You fell into a deep, dark hole of the thought process, the deep dark hole of mentalization. Get past that shit. Come back to your body. Come back to the sensation in you. So this is the danger of overly appreciating and seeking out the meditative experience. There's no meditative experience. If it's a meditative experience and you've conjured it, let it be. Let yourself be exactly as you are. You find it's the most simple thing. It's the most ordinary thing. You come back to that which is the most reduced. When you reduce it all down, all the thinking back, forget about what you think you know, forget about all your beliefs, all your conjurings, and come back to the absolute raw basics of meditation. You'll find in the raw basics of meditation is not in any way at all connected to any theosophy, any religion, any belief system, any spiritual experience at all. None of that is part of the actual meditation. The actual meditation has got nothing to do with any of that shit. That is just the traps you fall into along the way when you start to explore what goes on the mental level of our experience, on the conjuring of the imaginary level of our experience, or when we start to mess around with the chemistry of our body, either through drugs or simply through the way in which we use our breath, or the way in which you use our thinking to induce different chemicals, therefore to induce different states. And when we do induce these different states, we do change the chemistry of our body. We can do all that, but what for? What do you want to do that for? It's harmful to the body to do that. The body's not interested in that. It's just what you get caught up in. I got caught up in that when I was a yogi monk for 7 years. I got very caught up in that until it did so much. I started to notice the harm it did, the harm it was doing. And then it just dropped away. I didn't drop it. It dropped away. I was lucky. It just fell away. It's like an huge imagining of mysticism and all the occult powers and so forth, and most of that came with it, has dropped away. I just lost interest in it. It's just bullshit. There's no fulfillment in it. It's not an actual living experience. It's a mental experience, and any mental experience is absence the fulfillment of the lived experience of what it is to be alive. There's no life in it. It's dead. It's empty. So we've got to be careful of that as well. When we come back to, we see that intellectual side of the Westerner, and we see the romantic, emotionalized side of the Easterner. And we drop those two, and we come back to what are we putting importance on here? And when it gets back to a more balanced person, I talked about some extremes there, a more balanced person will not be interested so much in the proving what they experience, or proving or talking about or showing off about their meditation. They'll simply know it for themselves. It's just a knowing, like you know anything in the body of you. It's a sensation. And that knowing sensation of what it is to be you is all meditation boils down to. There's nothing else to it. You will never know what it is going to be you in the future. That's not ever going to be known. There's no future. You don't even really know what it was to be you in the past. That's gone. That's over. You only know as the lived experience. And if it's not the lived experience, if it's not happening now, it's not life now. If not life now, it's not there to be actually known. All you have ever is what is there to be known. And what is there to be known has to be there of its own volition, not something you make up, not something you conjure. Whatever you make up is your knowledge. And this is what happens with the dangers of coming into the world of spirituality and meditation. And those two really don't mix very well together, because the spirituality is a whole lot of knowledge, a whole lot of ideas. And we apply that knowledge and we apply that ideas in the way we look at the world, in the way we imagine the world to be, in the way that we approach our meditation. And what do we experience? We don't experience the world, and we don't experience ourselves as it is. We experience our knowledge of that. So all these conjured experiences are not the experience of what we know about. It's the experience of the knowledge itself. And the knowledge, that's all we're experiencing. I have a sensation in my body, and I interpret that as, that's the presence of my aura. Yeah. And it's just the emanation of energy from the living experience of the body. Oh, that's the experience of my aura, or that's the experience of my awareness, or that's the experience of consciousness. No, that's the experience of the knowledge that describes the energy of the body as awareness. That's the experience of the knowledge that labels the energy of the body as consciousness. That's the experience of whatever our knowledge has labeled the ordinary, natural conditions of the body and made it into something much bigger and better and more important than it really is, because we're so very insecure. And we just got to make stuff up because we want to feel important. And it gets back to that whole problem in the West is if we're not doing something to achieve something, then what's the point of it? The point of it is that you get to see that what it is you're trying to achieve is the problem. Because when you're trying to achieve more, at the same time, you're telling yourself that what you are and what you have is not enough. And that's the reason you feel so unfulfilled and so empty in yourself as you are. And until you come back to that emptiness and that unfulfillment inside yourself as you are and feel that emptiness and feel that unfulfillment, until you feel it, you will never know the absence of it, because by feeling it, you feel it. When you feel your emptiness, next time you feel any emptiness, go right into the feeling of that emptiness. Just really feel it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. I'm saying only feel the sensation as it feels in the body of you and see how that feels. And you'll find that feels completely fulfilling. So coming back into what it is to be you. Not what you think it should be, not what you've been told, but what it really is to be you, however that is. If you're not thinking about it, but you're truly feeling it as a sensation in your body, you will find your body will take care of any imbalance that's in, any disturbance that's in that, and you'll find the fulfillment of being with yourself, even in a disturbed state, is more fulfilling than being in thoughts about yourself. So you can think about how terrible it is to be you, and that will feel terrible because you're actually disconnecting from yourself into thoughts about how terrible you are, and you're only experiencing that knowledge. You're only experiencing those thoughts. Or you can think about how wonderful you are, and you can think about how amazing you are, and you'll only be experiencing the conjuring of those thoughts, of this self-intoxication that you create through that. And you'll see this in all these gurus. They're all doing it. They're all creating this self-intoxicated nonsense. You may not be able to see it as clearly as me. I've been there and done that. I did that myself, embarrassingly enough. And that was a long time ago. It was when I was a monk, but still I did it. I know what it's like, and I know what it feels like, and I know what happens. You can get stuck there, which a lot of my friends did. I've still got friends of mine who have been a monk in the same situation I was a monk in for the same, up until now, still are monks. They're so delusional. They're so lost in being a happy, joy, bliss junkie. It's just not real. It's the fabrication of the meditation techniques and the ways in which they've learnt to think about themselves keeps them really happy. You might think that's okay, but I don't think it is, because it's not real any more than when you think horribly about yourself and you bring yourself down into terribly low feelings inside of you. That's not real either. Neither of those are real. Bliss isn't real and depression isn't real. It's the result of the way you're thinking about yourself at the time, or in some cases the way in which you are imagining, using techniques to imagine certain states. They're just states. They're just mentalizations. Any one of them are empty compared to the reality. Yeah. So the emptiness, when you brought yourself down into a feeling of feeling really down from the way you're thinking about yourself, this is a very empty state. Actually, what I would suggest there is go right into the feeling of being down. Drop your thoughts that are creating it and just be with the feeling that remains. And that's in your body. Feel how that's affected the vibrations of your body. Feel how that thinking has affected the vibrations of your body, and really be with that. Be in the darkest, downest feeling that is in there. Be with it and see how long it lasts. And you'll find being with that is such a relief. It's such a relief and such a fulfillment. And being with that will enable that to process in whatever way it has to, but you will not feel emptiness there. You'll feel more fulfilled in a down state that you're fully connected with than you will in a thought fabricated state of bliss There's more substance and more fulfillment in being down than there is in being high because of the way you're thinking. If you're really feeling down, you are feeling solid. There is only that. There's no comparison. It's just the feeling of that. And you've got no other way to, nothing else to compare it with. But when you're thinking yourself into a blissful state, you are doing this out of comparison. You're doing this out of a technique to achieve that state. You keep creating those thoughts and those ideas that keep you high. And it's just a mental high, just a mental high. Underneath that mental high is an absence of feeling, an absence of substance. It's an emptiness of the worst kind, because it's an emptiness that gets them trapped and they can't get out of there. They get addicted to it until eventually their body collapses or something drops away and they come back to the neutrality of what it really feels like. Whether I'm absolutely tired and exhausted, it's not a bad feeling. If I'm tired and exhausted, to be able to lay down and just feel that exhaustion, isn't that wonderful? Yeah, isn't that the best thing? When you're so exhausted, you lay down on the bed and you just feel the exhaustion. You just ooze the exhaustion. And you feel your body just relax into its own natural process of recovery. And the main part of that recovery is to feel absolutely exhausted. And it's such a good feeling. You don't want to be in that moment. Do you want to feel high? Do you want to feel energetic? You don't. You only want the luxury of feeling absolutely exhausted. Or when you're really upset with something. Yeah, somebody's really upset and you won't let yourself get upset about it. You're trying to fight it and you're reacting to it and resisting to it. And then someone says, okay, just feel how you're feeling. Someone puts their arms around you and says, just feel what you're feeling. Just get in touch with that. And you're allowed to, and you're supported to, and you feel the distress and you feel the upset and you feel it all through you. And it's such a relief to what it is to be you, to be allowed to be honestly you in that moment. You don't want to feel any other way, because to feel any other way would be a total falsification of yourself. So every single feeling that you ever can have in your life as a living organism itself is total fulfillment when you are in the feeling of that. And there is no particular feeling that will be more fulfilling or more satisfying than the one you're in right now. But you won't know that until you completely drop into that, and that is what meditation will show you, that however you are, all the ordinary feelings of life are extraordinary when you just feel them. Thanks for joining me today. If this talk resonated with you or helped you in any way at all, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the talk with your friends so that they can get the benefit as well. Okay, bye for now.